This is Ashley with Surrogate First, and I am super excited to welcome Danika with us of Baby Step. We have been blessed in the surrogacy field to be able to meet some amazing people who have amazing companies that support our parents, our surrogates. And so Danika was nice enough to join us for our Baby Steps nursing. And she's got an amazing program, but she's also got some great information for our intended parents who will be welcoming newborns home. Danika started her nursing career in 2018. With that time, she spent in both NICU and in postpartum mother-baby. This gave her a unique perspective into the relationships and the bonding process between parents and babies. Education is her passion. She not only enjoys educating parents on caring for their newborns, but she continues to learn about new theories and evidence-based practices with regard to parenting and newborns. She holds a BSN in nursing and an RNC for NICU. That's a lot of letters. So basically a certified in neo-touch and massage. Outside of nursing, Danika loves to travel with her friends, family, read books, and bake. Welcome, Danika, to our webinar. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So I would love to be able to get started. We do have a few housekeeping things. So normally our webinar viewers, our YouTube viewers, and our Facebook Lives, we try to do about a 30-minute presentation, but if we get going and there's great information, we're not stopping. And we'll always have a time for question and answer at the end. If you are on the webinar or you've registered for the webinar, you will receive a copy of this video. If you're on the webinar right now and you exit out at the end, you will get a quick survey. We just ask you to fill that out, so I really appreciate that. But we'll get started with the process. If you have any questions, I promise to get to them the best I can during the Q&A. Because we are on several platforms, I will try my best. I should introduce myself. I haven't been to the webinars in a while. I'm Ashley. I'm a 4-time surrogate. I'm also the intake director at SurrogateFirst. And so I have the pleasure of being able to oversee our webinars and our education of surrogates, parents, screenings of both surrogates and parents, and our matching process. And so I'm super excited to be back. Normally, Jasenia is hosting the webinars. And when I get lucky, then I get to have a couple and get to interview. And you were one that I was very excited about because I think a lot of parents, this may be their first child. And so there's a lot of like unknowns. And you know, most people are going through the 9 months and they're, you know, and they're nesting and they're things like that. You know, and in surrogacy, parents are still doing that same thing, but it's like, oh my gosh, I have this baby. Like, this is crazy. And so I really do appreciate you coming in. I'm going to start my slideshow so we can kind of share our presentation. Okay, perfect. So a little bit about Surrogate First. I gave a little bit of information on myself, but why choose us? As an intended parent, we have a match guarantee. So no matching, no fee. That is our policy. So until 4 things occur, you approve a surrogate's profile and she approves your profile, your clinic approves the records, and we do a match meeting. There is no fees due. We want to make sure that you like our services, you trust us, you feel comfortable with us, and that we can do the job we promised. And at that point, then we would invoice. We also have experienced staff that are previous gestational carriers or intended parents. We work very hard on our ethical values. We have a support system 24/7, and we have transparent fees. You're going to see a very, very transparent breakdown so that you can properly budget. The other side is that we have pre-qualified surrogates. That's one thing that I'm proud about. I always joke around, it's easier to get into like an Ivy League school than it is to get into surrogacy, because after we follow the ASRM guidelines and do background checks and drug panels and psychological evaluations and medical record reviews with nurses and clinics, you know, it is very hard to be a qualified surrogate, but it is so important to be qualified. So as a surrogate, look for an agency who does have a stringent screening process, because your health and your future, it should be the surrogate, you know, surrogacy agencies #1 priority. We want to make sure that we never put you at risk, or we minimize the risks as much as possible when going through IVF and medications on the pregnancy itself. In order to be a surrogate, you've had to have a baby, and so you are a mother, and we want to make sure that after this journey, you're able to safely go home to your family, you know, like, and deliver and be able to go home and to be able to go back into your normal life. So that's a little bit about Surrogate First. And I would love if maybe you would like to take it away about baby steps. Please help us out here. We've got a baby. What do we do?
Great question. And that's really where this company came from, is being in the hospital even, and parents getting ready to go home with their babies and saying, I'm not ready to go home. I don't know what I'm doing. Can you please just come home with us? And so at first we said, no, no, no. And then we were like, well, actually, if we start a business, we can. So everything that I'm sharing with you guys today are actually things you can start thinking about and maybe even taking some steps toward before the baby's born. And like you were mentioning, Ashley, the surrogacy process itself sometimes is so long, it's so emotionally taxing, and it's you're so invested that you're not really thinking about once the baby comes. Your whole goal is to get the baby, but then no one really thinks past that. So that's what this is all about, is let's start thinking about what comes next so that we can be a little more prepared and continue on this amazing journey and head into parenthood, maybe a little more confident, or, you know, at least a little less overwhelmed. So the first thing here is to seek out support. Now, again, you know, we all know in life in general, we should be asking for help, and none of us ever do. So it's going to become even more important once you have a baby. And it could be family, it could be friends, but something to think about is, who are those people around you already in your life that you do trust and that you could ask for help, whether it's help with the baby or help coming over and doing dishes, or, you know, helping pick up your other kids from school for a week, you know, or something like that. Start maybe kind of identifying who those people are. You know, being online a lot is great. There's a lot of information and there's a lot of resources online as well, but that also can be overwhelming. So we've got all of our social media platforms telling you the best way to do this, the best way to do this, the best way to do this. Who are the people in your life that you can trust and that you can ask an opinion of, and they will be honest with you? So that's kind of step one, is like, start identifying who your people are, who your village is. If we want to, you know, it takes a village to raise a baby. Identify with those people.
Well, and it's hard because I mean, I've been having babies for 22 years. So my oldest child that I birthed, my son, is 22, and the youngest surrogate baby is like 9 months. And I can tell you, in that 22-year process, back, side, forward, lay them down, sit them up, like
Yes.
it changes constantly. So your mother's advice, your sister's advice, your cousin's advice, well, whoever's advice,
Yep.
it changes. I'm like, I
Yes.
don't know. Like, thank God my children survived and are adults now because
I know. That's exactly true. And the other thing about that too is, you can have different friends to help you fill different needs. So you might have one friend who doesn't have a lot of extra time, but orders the greatest takeout food ever. And that's the friend that can order you food the day that you are driving yourself crazy. Or, you know, you've got the other friend who had a baby in the NICU and your baby ends up in the NICU. That's the friend to lean on for that NICU stay, because she or he will be able to help you relate a little bit more with that. So it, you know, as many people as you can bring in to your support network, just the better off you're going to be, the more supported you're going to be.
well,
So
many hands make light work, right?
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so the next slide, take a newborn education class. Now, everybody knows about childbirth classes. Most hospitals offer them. But a lot of childbirth classes really are that. They talk about the birth of the child, which is important. And you need to know what to expect in the hospital when you go into labor and all that good stuff as well. But a newborn education class is different, and it really focuses on how to care for the newborn after the newborn is here. You will get to learn that stuff in the hospital. But let me tell you, if you have vaginal delivery, you're in the hospital for 24 hours. Okay.
Yeah.
Assuming everything is normal, right? 24 hours. Crazy. The first at least 12 of that 24 hours, you don't remember anything you are being told. You are exhausted. You just went through who knows how many hours of labor. You haven't eaten real food in a long time. Like, it is just, it's hard to focus on learning new things when you just went through childbirth and it's a whole thing. So the newborn education class will allow you some hands-on experience to kind of start to build that muscle memory, so that when you get to the hospital and the nurse is telling you, don't forget to change the diaper, you're like, oh my gosh, yes, okay, wait, we did do this before. I think I know how to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely would be beneficial. I mean, even if you've had a child and it's been a while, like It doesn't have to be first parents. So just
No.
taking the newborn class and having that, like you said, that muscle, memory and it having being fresh on your brain probably would
Yeah.
lighten the anxiety a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Okay, next one. So this is most important for you guys, for surrogacy, for IPs, for GCs. And it's really making sure you know what your hospital policies are, and your hospital meaning the one you are delivering in. Um, every hospital has different policies regarding even just IPs and who's allowed and how many people are allowed in the room during delivery and how many people are allowed in the room in the postpartum period, who can stay the night, who gets armbands, which means you have 24-hour in and out access versus how many people have to come just during visiting hours. So knowing all that stuff ahead of time will also help you prepare and plan for your stay and make sure the IPs can be involved as much as they want to be or are able to be during that time in the hospital. The
Yeah, I
other
think.
thing, oh, go
Okay,
ahead.
sorry. No, go for it.
No, I was going to say the other thing, the other things to kind of keep in mind here too are um, pediatricians. So find out which if you don't already have a pediatrician, find out which pediatricians are on staff at that hospital because you need a pediatrician for your baby. You will need to choose one before you leave the hospital. And if you can choose one that has access at that hospital, then you can start to build that relationship right away. And I think that kind of makes that whole transition home easier as well.
That's important to think about. I mean, honestly, for a lot of parents, even like for intended parents that are international or they don't live in the state that the surrogates, you know, they to understand, because most babies will want to be seen, or most pediatricians will want to see a baby within the first week of birth. And if you're going to be in that area for longer than a week, then you should establish that care to make sure baby's okay to fly safely, go home,
Absolutely.
whatever that looks like. So yeah,
Yeah.
that is definitely something that would be beneficial. I know for us, as an agency, we found that a lot of the hospitals will treat baby as their own individual because when they're born, they're under 18 and they need a parent and guardian. So usually we have a great experience with hospitals allowing the surrogate, her support person, the parents, if the surrogate's comfortable with them being in the room, or what that looks like with C-sections. We've seen them even give us a little bit of leeway,
Nice.
where she can have her support person and baby can have their support person as soon as born. And so
Yeah.
I definitely
And,
think that that's amazing to know those policies.
well, and that's the thing. And I love that. And I love that more and more hospitals are doing that. But I don't want to say, let's just assume
Yeah,
that that's the way it
no.
is, because that would be a huge, awful, gut-wrenching shocker to have if your hospital does not allow one of those things or something like that. So yeah,
Well,
just
and
know what
knowing
you're
ahead
getting.
of time. Yeah, knowing
Yeah.
ahead of time, you could meet with the social worker, you could meet with the hospital team to
Yeah.
get those permissions and things like that. So I love that idea.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So next one, be present in the hospital. So this is obviously more for IPs. Surrogates, you don't get to leave, you have to stay. Um, but IPs, be there as much as you can. And the reason being is the nurses are all there and they're helping you do the diaper changes and the feeding and answering all the questions and checking temperatures and kind of going over all of those things throughout the day. The pediatricians come and visit at least once in the hospital, and you can talk to them and ask questions of them and hear what information they have to give. And you get the hands-on practice with support of the hospital staff. So it again, it's just more time for you to be supported as you are learning this new role and all the new skills that kind of go along with that. Here in circled, it says trust your instinct. This is a big one, and there's more evidence now showing that there is such a thing as paternal instinct and not just maternal instinct. Okay, so dads have instincts as well. IPs, it can be a little different, and it depends on how involved you were during the pregnancy, and maybe you are feeling very close to the surrogate, and you're feeling like already this is my baby. If you have been overseas and haven't been able to spend a lot of time, it might take a little more time to kind of create that bond. But either way, this is your baby. You have spent a lot of time and love and energy creating this family. So you still need to trust your instincts. So if there's ever you have a question about something or you think that something's wrong with the baby, always, always, always speak up, whether you are the surrogate, whether you are the IP, whether you're the grandma, really. I mean,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, everyone needs to trust their instincts no matter the role.
I love that. I tell people all the time, like my intended mom, she wasn't big on like the belly buds or those things like that. But from the moment that baby was born, it was just crazy to me. And I've had three for the same family. So
So,
we've been together for like 7 years. And from the minute that baby was born, that baby treated me differently than mom. Like they did
mhm,
skin to skin, they did golden hour, they did all, like, and baby knew like that's mom and then treated me like, oh, that's Ashley, like that's my
yeah.
babysitter, I'm back with my mom now. So
Yes.
it's crazy how she had those instincts and baby knew like it was this connection. I mean, obviously newborns cry, but it was an
Yes.
amazing experience. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Okay.
skin to
This
skin.
one, yes, this one is huge. I know. I'm so glad you said like skin to skin, golden hour. And this is for everybody. Okay. Skin to skin is one of the best things you can do with your baby in the hospital. Okay. It helps them to transition. So when we say transition, it's that whole, the baby is learning how to be out of a warm, quiet, wet environment and out into a bright, dry, loud, cold environment. That's transitioning. They are learning how to be a baby on the outside. We are learning how to be a parent also. But skin to skin, there's so many benefits. I only listed a couple of them here. There are literally probably 50 benefits to it, physiological ones, heart rate, respiratory rate for both parent and baby. But just having them on your skin, they know your smell. So, and they know your voice. And again, if you're the surrogate, they'll know your smell. If you're the IP, they may not know your smell, but they may know your voice if you have been involved with the belly buds or, those types of
Yeah.
things. And so it starts that bond. Khloe Kardashian came out as very vocal with her last baby she had via surrogacy and how much trouble she had bonding. And obviously, we don't know what skin to skin she
Yeah.
did or whatever, but it is an issue. It is something that can happen. So if something people are afraid of, I can understand that. I don't want you to fear it, but what we want to do is give you some tools that you can use to address it. And I think skin to skin really, truly is one of the best ways to do that. So IPs can do it, Surros, anybody can do it. And just the more time you have the baby on your skin, the better. And for those of you that don't know what skin to skin is exactly what it sounds like. You have the baby in just their diaper, and you take all of your shirt off and you lay the baby on your chest. So their skin is touching your skin. And it really is, it's kind of an amazing thing. We use it in the hospital. If there's a baby that is having trouble breathing, sometimes an extra hour of skin to skin takes care of that. So yeah, highly recommend as much as you can.
I love that. Me and my intended parents from the very beginning, that was something that was important to me. So with our first journey, we had already talked about it. So power of attorney, things like that, where if they weren't there, something happened, I went into labor early, whatever that looked like, I did not want the baby. Like now, don't get me wrong, labor and delivery nurses, you are a godsend, you're amazing. But you can't hold every baby,
No,
right? Like they're in their
no,
beds. And that was something where I was like, he's coming out, he's gonna be scared. And until I return him to you,
yes,
I'm still babysitting, like
yeah,
so.
no, I
So
love
I
that.
got I delivered at 36 weeks. I got rear ended a couple days before, and I was there, and mom, she wanted me to pump and she wanted nursing and things like that. And this child is 7 years old. I'm Auntie Ashley. He knows I grew him. I gave him milk. He went home. And so there's not this weird bond of like, we've got this, I'm behind bushes looking at him like
Right.
he's like a nephew, like, yeah, I
Yeah.
had to feed you and you went home. Like I was ready to go have, take a nap. I got the
Yeah.
easy part. I deliver,
Yeah.
I go home. But
Exactly. I love
yeah,
that you guys talked about that though. I love
yeah,
that you planned ahead and said, if the IPs can't be there in time, is it okay that
yes,
I take over that role until you can get there? Because again, we all want to do what's best for the baby, right? And
yeah.
so whoever is there to do that, love it, love it, love it. And yeah, talk about it, have it in your contract, whatever you guys need to do, so that we can offer as much resource and bonding and love and safety to that baby as possible.
Yeah, and I think there's a, skin to skin is very important for the child, like you said, transitioning. And I think sometimes in the surrogacy field, as a surrogate or as intended parents, people may not understand why my intended parents were okay with that. A lot of people fear that somehow a surrogate is going to create this like unbreakable bond and we're going to like steal the baby and run to like, I don't know, another country.
Right.
Not
Yeah.
the case. Like
Yeah.
we have put in 2 years to get to this place, to get this baby back to their parents that
Yeah.
we do. I mean, I was more cautious with a surrogate baby than my own baby pregnant, right? Like I was like, okay, I messed this up. and we're just wanting to make sure we get baby healthy, happy back to the parents. And so
Yeah,
I love that the skin to skin is important, and the parents, she did it. And I can see firsthand experience how they have connected and they bond. And just that feeling of like, a newborn on your chest, it really does help. Even for like me as a surrogate, being able to hold the baby or to nurse or pump helped with like the contractions and milk production. And
absolutely.
so I gave her a shirt of mine, and then she gave me the baby blanket of the baby so I could smell it, produce the milk. Baby could smell me and be like, oh, Auntie Ashley's around here somewhere. We're fine,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's okay. It's not gonna risk the chance of the parents bonding with their child. It just helps the transition.
Exactly. It's sometimes birth just immediately after birth is called the fourth trimester.
Yes.
So if it does feel weird to you, if you kind of think of it that way, the fourth trimester is just it's the continuation of the pregnancy and the birth. We're still just in taking care of baby mode until we can go home and do all the rest of the things. But
Yeah.
I love that. That's great. Okay, this slide. Ask questions. Duh, right? Duh. Please do ask questions. A lot of parents come in and they are afraid to ask questions. They don't want to sound dumb, or they don't want to think that we don't know what they're doing. Listen, if you're a first-time parent, you don't know what you're doing. We know that you don't know what you're doing, and it's okay. And that's why we're here.
Yeah.
I want you to understand the why behind things, not just the what of things. So when you're in the hospital, we will tell you you need to feed the baby every 2 to 3 hours. Okay. Most people don't ask why. They just say, okay. And then we come back in a few hours later and they say, oh, the baby hasn't eaten for 4 hours. And we're like, well, wait, we told you 2 or 3. What happened? So let me tell you the why, but I also want you guys to ask why while you're in the hospital. Babies' tummies are tiny, 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 like the size of a little marble. So they can't hold a very large volume of food. As they are transitioning, their body now has to take over all of the things that we were doing for them when we had them inside, right? We maintained their temperature. We maintained their blood sugar. We maintained their heart rate and their respiratory. They didn't really respire. They didn't breathe, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
their body now has to do all of these things for itself on the outside, and that takes a lot of energy. Their tummies are not big enough that they can just have 3 meals a day. So I tell parents they have to snack throughout the day. You have to give them food every 2 to 3 hours so we can maintain that blood sugar so that they have the energy to continue the transition, to continue the growing and the stuff they need to do. So understanding the why. The other thing I want you to ask about is just anything you're curious about, or if you read something that was different than what your nurse is telling you. One of my favorite hot takes is with swaddling. Most people will swaddle the baby's arms down next to their
Uh-huh.
sides and swaddle them really tightly. Well, let me ask you, when you went to all of your ultrasounds during your pregnancy, did you ever have a baby that had a hand up or both
Yeah.
hands up near their face? A lot of people have. They say, oh, yeah, she always had her right hand up.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? She still wants that right hand. Just because she's out doesn't mean we should take that away. So there is a way to swaddle and still allow your baby access to their hands. It will keep them more comfortable. They'll be able to self-soothe a little bit because they're used to having their hands up. But again, a lot of people don't ask. The traditional way is arms down. They think you have to do it that way. So if you've read something like that says you don't have to do that, it's okay to ask the nurse, like, hey, I read something saying I don't have to swaddle the arms down. Is that true? And we'll see what they say. There's also a lot of different ways of doing things. So ask
Love that.
questions, yeah, while you're in the hospital. Okay. This is the other big one about being in the hospital, but it's something I want you to think about before you get there. So feeding plan, and again, I think you guys are actually at an advantage because you probably are talking about this and it's in your contracts. Do you want to breastfeed? Do you want to bottle feed? Do you want to formula feed? Are you going to pump? Are you going to do all the things? Sometimes though, we get an idea in our head, we want to breastfeed, that's it, we're not going to do anything else, done. And then something happens with the baby and we need to get them some more milk. So whether it is the GC is maybe the GC is bleeding and is in the ICU. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to throw out worst case scenarios, but it does happen. And she can't breastfeed. Or maybe, you had a little bit of breast milk stored up, but we went through it in the first 2 hours, you know, who knows? So
Yeah.
I think being flexible and understanding that, again, we're all working toward the health of the baby as the most important thing. There are, based on how the delivery went, if it was a really difficult delivery, that baby may have more trouble transitioning. When they have trouble transitioning, sometimes they don't want to latch and they don't want to breastfeed.
Mhm.
And so they're not getting food. You're not able to feed them every 2 and 3 hours. We're trying to, but they won't latch. So we may have to offer a little bit of formula. We may have to tube feed. We may have to do some other things. So just something to keep in mind. What is the plan that you would like to have for how to feed this baby? But then what if there needs to be something else? What if we need to supplement with something else? What are the options? Some people have thought about this ahead of time and they have a very specific kind of formula they want to use. Hospitals typically only carry 1 or 2 different kinds. If you have something that you got completely on your own, your hospital may require your pediatrician to sign off on that formula before it can be used.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah. So just these are kind of some things to kind of keep in mind ahead of time. Again, that would involve, if you have a pediatrician already, shoot them a picture of it and say, hey, I'm thinking of using this formula. What are your thoughts? Some pediatricians don't like goat milk based formulas. They don't think it provides enough nutrition. Other pediatricians think it's fine. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
disagreement and still a lot of information, you know, being researched and stuff. But yeah, so just things to keep in mind, have a plan, but be flexible and know that we're all working toward trying to do the best for the baby.
Oh, and I think like I just realized too, going back to finding out the hospital's policies, I delivered the last surrogate baby down in San Diego with the UCSD system,
Mm.
and they had breast milk on tap. Like, and so I remember the little hippo that I delivered. Like, this is my 6th pregnancy. I'm
Yeah,
like, I'm producing some colostrum. I'm doing what I need to. He was still hungry,
was not
and
enough.
they were
Yeah,
able to supply breast milk. And I
I'm
thought,
so glad you brought
that
that
is
up.
so amazing.
Yes, yes. So one of the hospitals in Burbank out here in LA is just starting to look into carrying donor milk. So yes, there could be other options besides just formula. There could be donor milk available. There could, but that's again part of looking into that hospital and knowing what questions to ask and knowing what kinds of things are gonna maybe come up so that you can start to look into them and get an idea of what you want to do. That's great
Yeah.
that they have other options.
And I have some parents too who have induced lactation. And
Yes.
so they're able to produce maybe a couple, ounces, and so either they can fully feed or they can supplement feed.
Yeah.
And so with the breastfeeding and the feeding, there are also products that are amazing. We're just going to take a little plug that actually will have a tube and that can go in. And that's what UCSD was doing too, was they were putting the tube into the shield so
Mm-hmm.
that they were still, being able to lactate, but also give enough milk for the baby.
Yeah.
And so being able to feed with that tube if they latched on, and so parents can do that too. So knowing to have that product or find out if the hospital has that, there's so many different ways to feed. But again,
Yeah.
a fed baby is best.
A fed baby is best for sure. Yes. Okay. So being a parent is a unique experience. Okay, there is nothing like it, right? Actually, there's just we can try and tell you all day long what it's like, but you have no idea until it happens. But here's the part I want you to pay attention to. Be patient. Okay, be patient and let's try and enjoy the whole process. And that's part of what I'm here for, what my company is here for, is we want to try to help get through the overwhelming part faster so we can start to enjoy the parenthood part faster. But be patient. Okay, think about it. Your baby has been out of the tummy, out of the womb for a whole whopping hour, and you have been a parent now for a whole whopping hour. Okay, we're all learning to do something new, and we're all having to learn to do it together. Every baby is different. You can attest, you've had more than one, and they've probably all 6 been very different, or
Yeah.
7 been different. So
I don't know how many anymore.
it's but it takes a little bit of patience. Okay, so if your baby doesn't latch the first time you try to latch, then don't freak out, don't panic. Okay, take a deep breath and say, you know what, try again in a little bit. We're all trying to learn, we're all trying to figure it out. The nurses are here to help you with that, the pediatricians are here to help you with that, the OBs, everyone's trying to work together to help you figure it out. But try and be patient with it. The other person I like to bring up here is Cesar Millan. Okay, I think everyone knows the dog whisperer, Caesar Milan, right?
I have his leash.
And his leash and his skates and all the things.
Trainings and yes.
But the biggest thing about him, which is the reason I'm bringing him up, is he's all about energy, right? Not always just dog energy, but owner energy. It's the same exact thing as being a parent. Okay, those babies know our energy. They can feel our energy. If we are starting to spiral and panic, they are not going to feel safe and they are going to start to cry and be a little like that. If we can kind of control ourselves a little bit, take a deep breath, try and be calm, remind ourselves, you know what, we're all new at this. We're all working through it together. We will be okay. Try and keep your energy a little bit more calm. It really does make a difference with the babies as well. So easier said than done, but something to keep in mind.
That is true. I can definitely attest to that with all those babies. They
Yeah.
can feel the energy. My grandmother, which I don't think it's not true, but she would always just say like, don't spoil your milk. Like if you have that all rushing up in you, it's gonna be like sour. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, I gotta keep my peace. I gotta figure out my peace. I don't want to spoil my milk.
Yes. Yes. There's no scientific backing to the spoiled milk
Nothing.
part, but it's a good
No.
visual for like,
Yeah. That's what I just remember is like,
yes.
because the baby's close on skin, and if I'm all upset, then they're getting that. And so I definitely understand.
I mean, okay, so this isn't in any of my slides, but you guys, breast milk is amazing and our bodies are amazing. And breast milk will change depending on not only how mom is doing, but what baby needs. If that baby needs some extra protein, the next time they latch, their body is sending hormones through their saliva into your body, and your body will produce milk with more protein the next time.
Yeah.
So it's a phenomenal, just incredible uh, feat of humanity or being human. But again,
Yeah.
energy will play into all of that.
And that's,
So
I think, why my intended mother, she was the one who'd read about like the saliva receptors, and she's like, "Are you okay with this? Like, is this going to be weird?" And I was like, I grew him. What's being a milk cow for a couple of days? Like, we're
yeah.
good. Like, that's what I look at myself. I'm your milk cow. And at one point, she had actually stayed with me after we delivered and left the hospital because she was international. That's not normal. But I come from Hawaii, where we're like, come on, you're family now. And so she
Yeah.
stayed with us for a week. And I remember at one point her bringing baby over and holding baby while I was like, I can't do it. I'm tired. She's like, well, I'll just put him on. And she's holding this baby, latching him on. I'm like, I
That's so
really feel
sweet.
like a milk cow right now, but
That's
it's okay because I'm
legitimately a milk
tired.
cow.
Like, you hold the baby now. It's your turn. So
But it's
how
great.
can you help? Obviously, we're not going to latch that baby on, but how does your business help?
I'm not. Yeah. So what we do at Baby Steps Concierge Nursing is we really are helping you through this whole process. So we have a pre-birth meeting with you to discuss your concerns, to talk about the things you need to know, to do education and hands-on practice. So we have dolls that we have had specially made that weigh about 7 pounds, which is an average baby. They're a little floppy. Obviously, they're not the same as a real baby, but hands-on practice really does make a difference when it comes to doing things with babies. So swaddling, bathing, diapering, that kind of stuff. There's actually a lot more little detail to diapering a baby than you would think. And there's maybe not necessarily a wrong way to do it, but there is a better way to do it. So we'll show you kind of all those tips and tricks. We'll let you practice for a while so that when you get to the hospital, that's not the first time that you're seeing it, hearing it, and trying to do it, because that's a wiggly baby and it's just not the same. We then will come after the baby is born and after the baby's been discharged and everyone's back home again. We will provide a nurse, and all of my employees are nurses. We are all registered nurses. We all have experience in the NICU and postpartum and labor and delivery, so all around the babies. But we will come in your home and help answer questions. Where are the tricky points for you? Do you need reminders again on how to do stuff? Is the baby's diaper leaking every time? Let's troubleshoot that and see what's going on. We usually give a bath in the hospital, so you don't have to give one immediately when you come home, but because you didn't even get to give the first one, you might be like, oh my God, I have to take a bath. We can help you through that first bath. So in-home visits after birth to help with more hands-on stuff. Again, education, personalized to whatever you need, whatever you're struggling with, whatever you have questions on. And then we will provide you with phone and Zoom support for the first month. We mentioned that you will visit your pediatrician typically about 2 days after you're discharged from the hospital. The pediatrician wants to see the baby again. But then after that, it will be not until the first month before you'll go back to the pediatrician. So we want to be there for you in that first month, help keep answering questions that may be coming up for you. There's other things, additional things we can do if necessary. So if you did have a baby that was in the NICU, that is a very different parenting experience. But we do have NICU experience as well. We can show you some of the ways you can still bond with your baby in the NICU, because it's not always the same. Can't always do skin to skin. But there are very specific things you can do that will help you bond with your baby. Or if your baby has to come home with some medical care, wounds or drains or feeding tubes or things like that, we can come help give you support, help you get more comfortable with taking care of that as well. And then travel assistance. I actually am talking right now to some IPs who live in California. The surrogate lives in South Dakota and she's having triplets. And they were not expecting triplets.
Wow.
So they said, well, there's only 2 of us and there's 3 babies. How do we get them home? So we said, well, we'll send a nurse out. We'll help you bring the babies back home. So
Yeah, I'm sure that
yeah,
they're a little more fragile too, with 3 of them,
most
so
likely
having a
we'll be on the
nurse,
smaller side.
that will be
Yeah.
amazing. What a great
Yeah.
support though to,
So
during that travel. It's a scary time.
it's a very scary time. And we actually also have heard of airlines requiring a nurse travel with the family if there is a baby on oxygen. So
Oh,
yeah, it's, every situation's different. But really, I mean, this list is stuff that we do, but really our whole goal is to support you, to help you gain confidence, to help teach you those skills that you only get to hear about for 12 hours, 24 hours in the hospital. But really, help this be a wonderful experience and help get parenting off on a right foot, and show you that you can do it and you're going to.
I love that. And if someone was wanting to know, like, how do I get in contact with you guys? What would be the first steps for them to be able to get a hold of you, or how does that work for you guys?
Yeah, the best way actually is here, our website,
Okay.
babystepsnursing.com. There is an inquire tab and you can shoot us. There's a little form to fill out and it says, how do you want us to respond back? We can email it, we can call, we can text, we can do whatever. But we'll start the conversation. And typically we start this conversation at the beginning-ish of the 3rd trimester.
Okay.
You've got enough going on the first few trimesters. So it's 3rd trimester at some point, we can start the contact, but I mean, you can contact us at any time, but that's really when we would start the education and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, and then we can kind of talk through the process and what it looks like and what the timelines are from that.
Yeah, and I guess it would be fresh in your mind, at that point when you're in that 3rd trimester. I know when I'm giving a parent the whole layout of surrogacy journey, like
Mhm.
25% is retained, And so like when you're
Exactly.
learning these things and having that ongoing care that first month, like, okay, wait, what was I supposed to do? Like, baby's doing this, where was the hand? I don't know what's going on. I
Yeah.
think that's so amazing to be able to then be on video. So you're like, help me. It's not just a phone call that, they can keep in contact and be able to check in on things or get reminded, like little refresher courses of like, remember we were talking about this, you got this, you can
Yeah,
do it.
exactly. Exactly. Or if things change. Hey,
Yeah.
we had a client one time, baby was feeding fine. And 2 weeks after they got home, she called and said, oh my God, he stopped eating. What's going on? So it was just a nipple issue. They were using, the baby needed a bigger nipple and,
Yeah.
we troubleshot it really quickly. So, yeah, just continued support because stuff is always coming up. You always are forgetting or new things are happening or just life changes.
Yeah.
Something happens to someone in the family and now you've got something else you're dealing with plus a newborn on top of it. So again, overwhelm. We want to help with all the overwhelm as much as we can.
Well, and I love that you can go to someone who is educated and, you know, and experienced in this, because I know when I go down the rabbit hole of Google,
Yes.
everybody's dying, right?
Yes.
And so like you don't know where that information is. Anyone can put anything on the internet, but to know that
Yes.
you guys are educated and you have the background in the nursing side of it, like
Yeah.
that is just so valuable compared to like me Googling and thinking like life's over.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you, coming over and explaining more about this and being able to share your time. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience before we head out?
I I don't think so. What I hope you guys do though is maybe rewatch this because the things that I really spent some time putting together the things I think are most important for you to start thinking about before you get to the hospital. And the more thought you can put into it now, the less overwhelming that will be once you get to the hospital. So again, and you can always use the inquire tab on our website to ask questions. If, just not that you want services right now, but you heard something I said, but you don't remember, or you want more information on something, please put us down, put us in your village as one of the resources that's here to help you.
So the inquiry tab is not a black hole. It will get to someone and you will get back to them.
It will come directly to a human. Yes.
Awesome. Well, I definitely, Danika, thank you so much for all your time. I mean, I really appreciate that you were willing to do this and help our parents and, and any parent out there that's going to be a new parent or going back to parenthood after a long time. Like, your services are available for everyone. You guys are located in the California. Are you more like, are you all of California, or where would you specifically more be?
We're kind of based LA,
Okay.
but we can
But
go
we can
anywhere.
go anywhere.
Yeah, we can go anywhere.
Perfect.
So,
Awesome.
yeah.
No, I love that.
Thank you for having me, Ashley. I really appreciate the opportunity. This has been great.
Thank you so much. If anyone is needing to get a hold of me, y'all know where to find me. I'm at the same place every day. And you can email me, ashley@surrogatefirst.com. Or my phone number, my direct line is 424-567-3703. Any of the social media handles. If you are an intended parent who is just starting out this process and haven't even begun the surrogacy process, reach out to us. We do complimentary consultations. We go through the whole surrogacy 101, help you to stay away from red flags, to look out. We don't want you to become a Lifetime movie. So even if you're not with us and you have questions about surrogacy, reach out to us. If you're a surrogate and you're interested in becoming a surrogate, or you're currently in the surrogacy process, we have some amazing, tips and tricks, even into the third trimester. So what we have is like a third trimester birth plan. And so there's things that I will share with you. We are not gatekeepers. We are all part of one community. So whether you are looking at surrogacy with an agency, independent, reach out. We're always available. It may take me a little bit of time to, get everything together, but we do promise to help our community. And we will see you in 2 weeks. Have a good day.
Bye.